which is, let's be honest, really quite worrying. And the story is this idea about councils who are planning to delay elections. And it's a really worrying, frankly, development because last year I think there was about five councils that did this, and this year they're up to 63 already. And what's very interesting about it, of course, is that it looks exactly like what most people believe it to be. Namely, it looks a lot like this is all about trying to control how well or otherwise the elections go for non reform, non Greens type parties. This looks a lot like it'll. Flagstone. Okay. Where were we? Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. Right. So, this is something we should worry about. Okay. I'm not a big one for conspiracy. I'm not a big one for big state trying to control things. I'm not a big one for um, the the council, the government. There's all a plan. It's all by design. I don't buy into that for one iota. But I think these stories about councils talking about delaying elections should be a massive concern for every single person, not just if you are in the area where your council is looking to delay. Because my understanding is this: last year, five councils asked to delay elections. This year, it's 63 councils asking to delay elections. And some of those 63, I don't know if all of them, came from that original five. In other words, some people who didn't get an election last year are unlikely to get an election this year or this year, next year. You get my point. And I've seen various Labour ministers talk about this on news programmes, and their reaction is preposterous and insulting, and it's a real slap in the face for anyone. And the reason I say that is because instead of answering the question, oh, well, we're doing it because, or yeah, we understand people's concerns, or actually, I can categorically assure you the kind of things you'd expect from a grown up, what you're actually getting is people saying things like, oh well, it's just a year. We're not cancelling. We are just postponing. The problem is, you know as well as I do, when a government says, "Oh well, it's a temporary thing, or it's just for now," virtually all the taxes that we are paying now, we've been paying in this country for 100 or 150 or 300 years, all started as just for the moment. You see, I'm old enough to remember VAT when it was 15%. And I remember when it went to 17.5%. I might be mixing up the amounts here, but I remember it when it went to 17.5%. I actually remember it was 7.5%. But anyway, I remember it went from 15 to 17.5. And I remember at the time it was all, oh well, it's a short-term thing, it's to help us out of a hole. That was a short-term thing, and it's now 20%. There is no trust whatsoever that anyone has in this government, in the last government, likely in the next government, when they do things like this. When they tell us it is short term, it is nearly always not short term. If they tell us, oh, yeah, well, we're not going to cancel elections, we're going to postpone them until next year, the question that everyone's going to be asking is, well, how confident are we that we're actually going to get our elections next year? Because I am not convinced. I'm not convinced we are going to get our elections next year if you're in one of those 63 councils. Certainly not all of them. I am not convinced. And it is predominantly Labour and Conservative. Now, interestingly, Lib Dems have come along for the ride as well. So, if you are watching this news item, the big story that keeps breaking as well, and I've done a video on it this morning, Lots of people have been saying, well, could we not pay our council tax on the basis of no representation? We could get no representation, no taxation, no representation. That's it. Yeah, no representation, no taxation. Is that a fair thing to go? Various people have said to me already. I must have handled a dozen or so people asking the same version of the same question. What would happen if everyone started paying council tax, stopped paying council tax? And the answer is this. First of all, everyone isn't going to stop paying council tax. That's not going to happen. What you might get is some people might not pay. Some people might talk about not paying, but then bottle it. And some people probably weren't going to pay at all anyway. The point is, not everyone is going to pay. Now, pick up your messages in just a minute, by the way. I'm going to have a quick commercial break, but let me just finish this thought because this is important. Simon, I can see you there in Facebook. This is an important point. We are at the point, we are at the cusp, we are just about rocking over the edge of a Labour Party that, remember, in its first year has talked about a mandatory digital ID. The word mandatory was dropped in there. Mandatory. You don't have a choice. You will have digital ID. And then the fluff story, which he didn't do very well, about why we all needed it. Mandatory digital ID. He even said, oh, well, we need to get out there and have the national conversation. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. Except remember when 3 million people in about a week signed the we don't want the digital ID thing, and straight away we're told, well, we're still having it. So digital ID, plus getting rid of trial by jury, plus these are proposals, plus getting rid of the chance to appeal, another proposal, and now we're going to delay elections. And here's the point. Labour are allowing other councils to decide to delay if they wish. The reason they're doing that is the same reason governments do anything. They want the results, but they don't want to take the blame. In other words, they know that Conservatives don't want to go head to head with Reform or Greens or whoever. So they start, you can decide. And when I was looking at it this morning, large sections of both Conservative and Labour councils have said, no, we're going to delay the elections. 63 councils so far. Now, I think that is both terrifying and appalling, and it should be a massive, big, fat, hairy warning to every person in this room. Now, let's just take a moment to pick up the messages. 38 people in Facebook, so that's 20 in Facebook, 18 in YouTube, and 40 on the side camera here over on TikTok. Picky Mears saying we need reform. Imagine if this was under the Tories, would be uproar, never sleep. Never sleep. Just try something. Try just for one day going through your day without going, yeah, but the Tories. There is uproar. There is uproar. And some of this is under the Tories. So just try. I mean, try it. You might not like it, but try. Yeah, but the Tories. There is uproar, mate. There is. Okay. What about this is insane, isn't it? I did 94.16 added to the threat if they come back to my house to be added, says Yankee Pie. The people need to take to the streets. We need to take the country back. What do you mean we need to take the country back, Never Sleep? Which you said we need to take the country back. Can't the people in the areas complain? Porks, they are. They are complaining. They're very unhappy. Simon over in Facebook, it's similar to a midterm election. It provides context to show how government is doing. It's a cynical attempt to prop up a failing party. Simon, that's exactly what it is. And this is why so many people are excised by this. They are unhappy about this. And it doesn't matter, by the way, whether you are Labour or Conservative or Greens or Reform. It doesn't matter what you are, whatever your political beliefs are. This is a big worry. And this is Labour using their position to go, right, well, we're going to have a mayoral election, or we're going to redraw the boundaries. And their excuses and explanations are a appalling pile of absolute steaming stuff. Oh, it'd be a waste of money just to have people enroll for 1 year, because governments are so worried about wasting money normally, aren't they? Because it's the right thing to do. It's what they normally trot out. How many times have you heard an MP or a councillor, it's the right thing to do, it's the fair thing to do? Yes, the right thing to do, the fair thing to do is to have elections. So we can tell you what we think of what you're doing. And if you take that away, that is not the right thing or the fair thing to do. I live in France. I called my mum back in the UK this morning to catch up with her. She told me, despite being unable to walk very far, she's now going to be denied the right to vote via the post, says Gregory. I told her I'd drive back from France to take her to vote in the next election. It's important. I want them out. Yes, I think many people think the same, Gregory, over in France on YouTube there. Thank you very much. Protests and mass disruption. Oh, hang on, let's just back a bit. The problem with Western politics is the politicians serve themselves and their party survival. DJ NRG in the house, that's exactly the problem, isn't it? Now, I suspect it's a problem in a lot of countries. It's not just in the UK or Western, you say there. I think it's absolutely the problem. By the way, if you're watching me right now on YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok, please, on TikTok, we've got 1.4K likes, which I appreciate. That was Luke mainly doing those. But if you want to tap the screen a little bit, it doesn't cost you a single penny. Facebook, I don't know what your like version is. There's a paid version which costs you 1 cent per star. If you want to send me a star, I got 10 stars earlier on today. Very excited. I mean, it's about 7 pence, but incredibly exciting. And YouTube, it's a thumbs up, I think, isn't it? Please share some of that love. That would be most appreciated. Total disrespect of our democratic rights, Dave. Dave Howlett on TikTok puts it, and I agree, Dave. I think it is a total disrespect of our democratic rights. The harsh, uncomfortable, difficult truth for both Labour and Conservative is they have made a dog's dinner of it for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever timeline you want to put on it. And politicians from both parties have consistently not been coming forward in terms of the way that we would like them to. They've not answered questions. They've not delivered. They have come across as sketchy and shifty and dodgy. And whether or not you think reform is the answer or the Greens are the answer, the reality is that the public has been saying to the political system for a long time, we don't like things you're doing. And the political system has gone, well, but it's the right thing to do. It's the fair thing to do. And we are seeing that accelerating. And Starmer at the moment, and Starmer and Reeves and the party are all largely going, no, this is what we want. So this is what we're doing. Hi. Mhm. Yep. I've got that. Shall I come do that for you, mate? Yes, because you asked me to set it up originally. Hmm. Good. I can into it. I can into it right now. Do you need to come over and do that? The ones I already sent to you. You want me to set it all up? Okay. Can I come do that? Okay. You asked me originally to set it up for you, which I did. That's no problem. No problem. It's no problem at all. Shall I come over in about 15 minutes to do that? Okay. Well, let him cycle and log in, and then we can send him a message going, no, sorry, it's fine. I'm okay. You don't need to log in to pay into it. You just need the details. You're still here. It's all going today, isn't it? Starmer is running scared. Dina, hello. Starmer's running scared. I predict a general election October 26. Why, Dave? There's no reason for him to call a general election. He's got a massive majority, and Conservatives can't take him on by themselves. Conservatives would probably like to deal with reform, but there's only 5 Reform MPs in, and Reform feel like they don't need to deal with Conservatives. So Reform will wait another 2 or 3 years. At the moment, Labour are doing all the hard work for them. I'm just waiting for MPs to give themselves a pay rise of 1 to 3% after raising the taxes. I would have thought so, Captain. Can they cancel general elections? Ghost. Now, I don't know. I was looking about this on local elections. There is nothing to say that, because this is the question that keeps coming up. If you don't get a local election, can you stop paying your council tax? There is nothing to say that you can. So either way, you got to pay your council tax. Apart from the sort of shit morons who think that you don't have to pay it because you can tell them you're travelling in your own personal carriage or whatever. Fixed terms, says Simon Perkins on Facebook. The boundaries to be changed aligned with the fixed terms. James Evans, nothing with this government surprises me anymore. This is on Facebook. This is a 10-year plan. Will take 20 years to reverse the damage that if that happens. The ball's already rolling for a revolution. The two-party system's about to be toppled. At least we can take the kids to Chester Zoo for a nice little break for £1. Oh, no, wait. It's £170 for net contributors. Even the private sector are encouraging UC sponging. Well, this is the problem, isn't it, James? And I've spoken about this a lot on the channels, and it's really blown up for me on Facebook. By the way, if you're following me on Facebook, thank you ever so much. We've gone from just prior to the 1st of November. I've been sort of on Facebook like many people for probably 10 years, but I've never really used it. I've sort of gone every 3 years to try and see some people I used to know. And on the 1st of November, or a couple of weeks before that, I started posting on a brand new channel, which is the one you're on now. We're currently on 16,000 followers. So it's really exploded. We're monetized now on Facebook. So thank you ever so much, everybody following me on Facebook. And I've spoken about this a lot, James. There's a huge number of people who every time I talk about sponging off benefits will come rushing to the rescue of those people going, yeah, but you know, I had this happen and this happened and this happened. And I get that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about those people who are very happy to be on the take year in, year out, because all the rest of us that have to pay for literally everything, because this is the problem, right? It's not just if you work, you get taxed, the money gets taken away from you and given to somebody that doesn't work. What makes it worse is that if you don't work, you get other things for free that you have to pay for if you do work. Not only that, but if you genuinely need support, and I absolutely accept and agree and believe there are people who need support in this country, you don't get as much support as you need. And if you have always paid in, if you've been a net contributor forever, and then you have something happen in your life, something unfortunate, a health thing or a job thing, you basically can't get support because you've got too many assets or because you've got household income. So it is absolutely biased against the people who pay for it. It's insanity. Can they cancel was the question. TikTok, we're talking to you as well. It's the British people's fault. They never stand up together. They just take more of a kicking. Well, it depends what you mean by all stand up together, DJ. Western democracy doesn't work. We need something totally different. Brexit, Trump, etc. I think that's what Boris was trying to do. I think he tried to model himself on Trump. This is not me commenting on the efficacy of Trump, but I don't think Boris did it very well. I think it's what Nigel Farage is trying to do as well. They keep saying it's the mess Conservatives left them in. They do, Ghost. They do keep saying that. And we can absolutely all agree in this room that Conservatives have made a complete mess of it for certainly the previous 14 years. But we can also agree that the Labour Party before that made them. And you know, we can go back and back and back. At some point, a new party has to make new, better choices. The current Labour Party is making appallingly bad choices. Within 3 weeks of the new Labour Party, I was talking in negative terms about what Labour Party was doing. And left-wing whingers were popping up saying, yeah, but, you know, Tories have only been 14 years, and Conservatives, Labour's have only had 3 weeks. It doesn't matter they've only had 3 weeks. They were making mistakes 3 weeks in. They were making poor choices. They were doing stupid things. They were taking things in the wrong direction. So it's not just because they were undoing the mess the Tories left them in. They were making messes all of their own. Labour Party chair now refusing to rule out delaying the next general election. Sherbert, is that true, or is that just a vague bit of made up there? I wonder. I'm not too sure whether that's real or not. So here's the thing. If the elections are cancelled in one council, let alone 63, where does that leave us? Where do we all go with that? Because I think alongside the digital ID mandatory imposition, which Starmer was talking about, I think alongside the potential removal of trial by jury for many crimes, I think alongside the removal of appeals processes, I think we are um, walking slowly into a serious difficulty with our current government. I think our current government is desperately keen to get more and more control and give us less and less personal control over our day-to-day situation. Like most people, I love using digital money. It's so easy, right? I love paying for stuff with swiping and bleeping and whatever. But I don't like the fact that therefore the government can see exactly everything. Now, I don't buy a lot with my own money, right? I tend to buy stuff with business, so everything I buy anyway gets seen because it goes through HMRC. But if I want to buy some obscure bit of sculpture, I want to be able to go into the middle of a field in a car boot, negotiate with the guy, hand over actual cash, and buy it. And his tax position is his tax position, and me buying it is for me. I don't want the government to have a single thing to do with that. And when people say, yeah, but if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about, I think you are deluding yourself. Because whether or not you have something to hide, you are completely missing the point that the more we give this authority and this power to the government, the less control and power we have ourselves. They have no right to govern if we cannot vote, says Andrew. I think that's probably true. Sherbet Face apparently seen on Threads, reported by the press. That was about the Labour Party chair talking about possibly ruling out the next general election. Paul, thanks for joining through the invite. I don't remember saying invite, but never mind. Right, so we've been on 22 minutes. I'm going to stay for another 7 or 8 minutes. And we have been talking in this live about the governments and councils. I mean, I'd kind of say colluding, really. It feels like they've been colluding to delay local elections. And it's very easy to come to the conclusion that they're doing that because they know they are not going to do very well against Reform or the Greens or whoever else. Because so far, Labour and Conservatives have enthusiastically grabbed this opportunity to delay doing elections in May. And when they are asked about it, they are just so smarmy. They are so, oh well, it's nothing. It's just this. It's just that. Oh no, it's there's nothing. There's no reason at all why you should be worried. Oh, it's conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. Of course we're not. No, it's just delaying it. That is absolutely indefensible. There's no way. There is no way that this can be defended. Captain Bios, it's not about if you have something to hide, it's about control, and also they then tell you how to spend and where you can spend. That's exactly right, Bios. And also, even if right, and I agree with you, it's not about whether you have something to hide, but even if that it was I have nothing to hide and you kind of don't mind, and even if it was innocence now, you never know what's going to happen in the future, other than government departments get bigger, budgets get bigger, council teams get bigger. Unlike the real world, where if you're not doing a very good job, you get shut down, changed, altered, fired, moved on. In council world, in public sector world, if you're not doing a very good job, you need a bit more money. Throw some more money at it. If they take us into a war, then there will be no elections of any sort. I believe that's generally the case, Sherbet Face. Let's all hope that isn't for so many reasons. Gradual decay is a catchy name. Councils are more corrupt than the government, and that is saying something. I mean, I don't know whether they're more corrupt, less corrupt, or about the same. Gradual decay over on YouTube there. But I think there is. I mean, corruption's an interesting word, right? Corruption, it suggests there's some intention and there's some planning behind it. I am pretty much of the mind, I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty much of the mind that governments and councils, largely, it is ineptitude. I don't think there is a grand plan. I don't think we do have this big plan to, you'll own nothing and be happy, 15-minute cities, WEF 2030 agenda. I don't really buy into that. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'm not saying if you think it's true, it's not true. But here's where I think we are. I think we have a succession of people who get themselves into power, who think they're going to do something good. I genuinely think most councillors and most MPs want to do something good, and then they get into power. And the people behind it, the people who run it, I don't think it's all joined up thinking. I don't think they all have secret meetings and plan what they're going to do. I genuinely think they are so inept, so disorganized. Nobody wants to change anything because that would involve discomfort or disagreement or something awkward. So I genuinely think what they do is they just try and keep it all the same, which is why it's so ridiculously messy. It's time that Labour take responsibility for their own actions. I agree, Graham. It's Graham on Facebook there. Rather than blame the mess they inherited. They are well into their term in office. Their priorities contained in the manifesto is getting worse. Well, what we talked about in their manifesto, Graham, they've largely seemed to have ignored and done a whole bunch of other stuff. The whole, we won't raise taxes for working people. Oh, well, we will. But that wasn't working people. Well, it was. No one's actually gone, yes, of course it was for working people. Yeah, but I won't be coming back next year. And she did come back next year. It's blatant, inept fibbing on industrial scale. Captain, I moved from the UK in 2008, but I was proud to be British. Now we've become a laughing stock. Now, see, it's an interesting one. Are we the laughing stock of the world? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think my biggest concern is, from my perspective, I work very hard. I have my liabilities, my responsibilities, my obligations, and I am sick and tired of being made to pay for lazy deadbeats. So we are clear. If you are somebody who needs support, if you used to work, but now you're in a situation, this isn't for you. So you can make it about you, and you can fume if you like, and you can write messages, and that's great because that will help the algorithm. But I'm not talking about you. Every single people in this room, right? It's 46 in TikTok. There are 6 people in Facebook and 32 people in YouTube. So all of us, about 100 people, we know exactly who I'm talking about, the deadbeats of the world, the deadbeats who do nothing, earn nothing, have done nothing for years, who teach their children to do the same. Those are the people I'm talking about. I'm fed up with paying for them. Nick C, would you leave if you could? Nick, I could leave if I wanted to. I like the UK a great deal. So, you know, I like the UK a great deal, but it doesn't mean that I don't have very strong opinions about how it runs and how it works. And I'm entitled to say them because I pay a big chunk for it. Ranger Martin, I went off sick with a cartilage in my right knee in 2022. It takes you months to get an X-ray and months to get a CAT scan. If you come to a rubber dinghy, you get a free NHS housing. Well, this is the thing, Ranger Martin. The incentives in the world, in the country, are mixed up. If you have paid in, if I had some massive change in my life and I need government support, I would be eligible for none because I have household income and I have assets. Right, so I would be eligible for nothing, despite being a very heavy contributor for 2 decades. That's the reality. If I had done nothing for the last 2 decades, I would be able to access support. That is wrong. The problem is we don't get value for taxes taken, for example. Absolutely, DJ, please don't come. Doctors are full. That's exactly the problem. Hi, says Farid. Hi, YouTube. Best Prime Minister in the last 20 years. Population of 69 million. How do we consistently end up with this talent at the top? James, it's a very interesting question, isn't it? I mean, if you go back to 1979, a lot of people, whatever you personally think, a lot of people still have some regard for Thatcher. Equally, people, of course, couldn't stand her. A lot of people still have regard for Tony Blair. Equally, people still couldn't stand him. Those are probably the 2 big hitters in the last 30 years, 40 years, 35 years. Gordon Brown was a disaster, dreadful little man, miserable sod. Major was a footnote in history, maybe a small fart. Theresa May, do I then remember her? Rishi Sunak, real snake in the grass. Boris promised so much, delivered so very little. Liz Truss, obviously. And currently we have Starmer, and oh my goodness. I mean, what a disaster. NHS, slow and overrun. I agree with all of you. Same thing's happening in Canada, Australia, NZ, EU, and UK. Roads damaged. Yep, I get it. Absolutely, DJ. MPs, cabinet ministers, and PM do not run the country. Civil servants do. MPs are just the faces. Well, Andrew, that's probably very true, and I think most of us understand that. But I would expect a face to be able to argue, to be able to speak fluently, as I am now, to handle lots of bits of information, to be on top of their brief. But how many MPs have you seen recently? You've been listening to them talk about something, and you think you're just evading the question, and they evade the question over the most ridiculous things. They argue about they go, oh well, what's important is I've been very clear, but they're never clear. Britain and Europe also need to invest in business and bring back the made in Britain or Europe. That might happen, Captain. I don't know. If they cancel elections, we, the public, should demand the cancellation of their wages and jobs. Well, had be in YouTube, we can demand that. I don't think it will come to anything. There's no legal mechanism for it to happen. Labour's just lifted the two-child benefit cap, and our debt is 5.3 trillion. Julie, yeah, I don't know if it is 5.3 trillion. I think it's 3 trillion, but either way, 3 trillion, 5 trillion. What's a couple of trillion among friends? Yes, it's insanity. It's utterly insane. Dentist expensive if you can get an appointment, says DJ. Nick, thanks for following me, by the way. If you're not following me on TikTok, that's how you follow me up the top there. If you're not following me on YouTube or Facebook, do so now. I'm going to do a few more minutes, and then we're going to bring this to a close. My name is Win. Do you support a universal basic income on TikTok there? Here's the problem with the universal basic income. If you pay me universal basic income, how much are we talking? 1,000 a month? 2,000 a month? Well, let's say it's 1,000 a month. I will take that £1,000 a month. I will continue to work at the rate I am now, and I will pay that £1,000 into some kind of investment building, funds. There's a million ways I could use it. What I won't do is just spend it on crap. There will come a point, and it might be this year, might be next year, might be 10 years. I don't know. I have no plans to retire. I love the businesses that I run. But the first thing I will do is to run down the amount of business that I do that equates to £1,000, whatever amount we're going to say, which means at that point, I, as a very high contributor at the moment, will be contributing the equivalent of £1,000 less, which I can take from the state. And then at some point, I'll wind it down some more, because by then, if I don't want to work, I don't have to work. I'm pretty much at that point now, but I still love doing what I'm doing. The problem, Win, is that there are lots of people around the cusp of that amount. It doesn't matter what amount you set it at. There will be people who earn about that doing a job they don't like, plus some benefits. And they'll just start going, sod it, I won't do anything. There'll be some people who earn a bit more, but they will buy off the pain and misery of having to do work and instead for this. So we have an increasingly shrinking pool of people who pay for it and more people taking out. Sherbet Face, another 1,100 people arrived in 3 days last week. Thatcher turned the economy around through Hayek economics, as Julie. Thank you. They all do it. Venom, thank you for following me. Bungle, they all do it. Yes. Deanne, completely agree. Too many Klingons. Suddenly they've been encouraged to be so. Yes, they have. They exactly have been. Monique, hello. I remember you from the last live. Civil servants are all that you say they are, and the more inept they are, the greater the chance of getting a top job. Star was a prime example. Yeah, I mean, if you sort of go along pleasantly, if you don't disagree, if you can wear a nice suit or a nice frock, if you can say the right things like synergy, if you know how to say, I've been very clear, if you can say things like, let me be clear, then yeah, you can, if you're not a threat to anybody, you stand up, you say a few things, you'll be absolutely fine. They don't do anything at normal speed. If you have any dealings with the public sector, national or local, most things are done at half speed at least. Retire early, says Win. Do you think we'll have civil unrest soon? Steve, I hope not. £400 a week's already been trialled in Wales under LIBOR. Yeah, I've read various stories about that. Are we actually out of the EU after Brexit? Who knows, Susie? What's your business? I run a number of training businesses. Dan, I run some property business, and social media is increasingly becoming my business. I've been monetized on TikTok for 3 and a bit years, and this May I finally kind of broke through from doing nothing on Insta. We have about 40,000 followers, I think, now on Insta, and YouTube. No, YouTube. Yes, YouTube is now moving. We're about 7,700. So that's a bit off monetization. And Facebook, we are on 16,000 followers. We've just monetized about 10 o'clock last night for that. So that's another string to the businesses. Other people will be able to eat. It will help children out of poverty. When they help children out of poverty is one of the biggest lies growing. It doesn't help anyone out of anything. All it does is it takes money from people who have created it and gives it to people who haven't. And the argument, yeah, but what about the children, is fooling more susceptible people who believe that what she did when she lifted the 2-child cap was to lift children out of poverty. The sole reason she did that was because she and Keir had no control over the backbenchers, and they don't want to lose their jobs yet. They want to hold on as long as they can. Hearing the last few weeks from prominent generals and politicians in Europe who are talking heavily about Russia, cancelling election chat is in line with that. Andrew, yeah, I mean, it's a worry, isn't it, from a lot of people. When will Labour be held accountable for ruining our country? Not yet, Stephen. It's still the Conservatives' fault. Couldn't we replace a lot of civil service with AI? We absolutely could. If you've got a reasonable level of intelligence, and I believe I have, if you have a degree of energy and confidence, and if you think about something, you can get answers and solutions to most things using a bit of artificial intelligence. And that's before you start spending a lot of money on it on a well-trained model. Until taxes come down, there'll be little growth in the economy. Absolutely agree with you. Stephen, I'm not sure they ever will, says Deanne. And that money is converted to food. It's encouraged to eat more for everyone. Win. I get that you believe this is real and it's a good thing to do. I'm very happy if you want to pay me money every single month for doing nothing. What I'm pointing out to you is it is a dangerous move for the country. They changed something with disability cars, saving the country a whopping zero. Is it illegal way to get this government out of power before the next election? No, Simon. You're absolutely certain, John T. Pretty much. We don't get help with respite down. We don't. Listen, folks, I got to go. Thank you all for being here. Much appreciate working with you, your chat this afternoon.